Hello and welcome to another edition of Lay Back with Betfair. My name is Karl Kaldawi. I'm back in the hot seat for Tom Haylock. The guys are coming off a massive heater, so still looking forward to getting Tom's tips in the app. But I welcome in Liam Clancey and Trent Crebbin from Racing and Sports. Clance, you're very excited for Golden Slipper Day, aren't you?
Yeah, it's a cracking day of racing. I think if you look at both cuts, I mean, obviously Moonee Valley looks okay with the 11 races and the William Reid, of course. But you step over to Sydney, you got 5 Group 1s, great support card. It's perfect time to be alive.
This is where champions are made. Trent, are you ready for Golden Slipper Day?
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait for it. It's huge, isn't it? I think the most Group 1s on any card anywhere in Australia, even maybe even the world. It's a huge day and can't wait for it.
I just think it's such a good race to talk about because it's a big field, 2-year-olds. Obviously, we've seen a lot of them. You got different form lines, the Blue Diamond, obviously the Sydney form lines as well. Last year, I laid Storm Boy win and place, and people thought I was a massive idiot, but the concerns were obviously having that inside barrier and missing the start and the wet weather and whatever. So that's why Betfair's awesome. You can lay. You've obviously got your different options, but we've also got the Willie Reid at the Valley. Are we excited for that race too? What's Jimmy Star? We all on board?
Yeah, I think I will be. He's one of the most exciting horses in the country. I think Jimmy. I think we did a bit of a deep dive into him a few weeks ago, and that Oakley Plate win was awesome. So very interesting to see how he's going to handle the Valley and how he sets up on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm a bit conflicted there because I was always a William Reid Manicato Friday night specialist. That was my favourite. And you focus on that on the Friday night, and then the Saturday comes along and you've got the entire race meet in Sydney to look forward to. So I would love them to send it back to Friday nights at the Valley under lights in that little Coliseum sort of atmosphere. But we enjoy it for what it is on Saturday anyway.
It was a great way to close out the Friday night season at the Valley, which is obviously no more because they've moved that meeting to a Saturday. Yeah, I agree with you, Clance. Yeah, I agree with you. We'll talk about that later. As per every single layback with Betfair show, we're going to go straight into the lay bin. I don't have anything. I'm actually going to be positive. I've got a backboard this week, but we'll touch on that later. Clance, you kick us off. What are you putting in the lay bin?
Yeah, we're going far from racing here, but people using their speakerphone in public places is something that grinds my gears no end. And it's just that like they have no concept of the people around them. They don't care. I was on a tram the other day and this guy sitting next to me, he's like a foot away from me. He's holding his phone here and talking into it. I was like, how obnoxious can one man be? And it was like boring conversation. If there was a bit of juicy gossip in there, I don't mind because you get to follow along. But no.
Can we get a demographic of this person?
No, he was
old?
no, not even old.
Senior?
Like it was like probably early 40s, white male. Should know better.
You should have had a word, Clance. Jeez.
The noise cancelling headphones had to go on. It was still loud enough.
Trent, what are you putting in the lay bin?
Yeah, so the Caulfield on Saturday, great promotion by the MRC. Pride of Jenny returned. That was awesome to see. Great atmosphere with her winning, and Kanga, MRC chairman, shouted the bar. Everyone got a ticket upon entry. If Jenny won, you'd get a free beer. Set on the ticket, valid until 7 p.m. on the day. Sweet. After the races, finished up my work and went to the bar, and they were all closed at 6 o'clock, and you couldn't get your free beer. So yeah, he shouted the bar and then put a proviso on it that you can't get it after the race is finished. That's a little bit disappointing, but yeah, it was good to see Jenny win anyway.
Don't get in between Trent and a beer.
That's like those old signs they used to have in like those old school pubs saying like free beer here tomorrow. Yeah. And you're just like, it'll be the same sign every day.
It's probably a bit of a thing that's happened for Victorian racing for a while. They close the bars way too early. I think Flemington go a little bit later in the members area, but as soon as the last race is done, especially spring carnival time, they're kicking you in the bum and pushing you out the door, which, yeah.
Having said that, Kanga was sorted all out. He's doing a good job.
Well, it's actually a bit of a segue. Like, good a little bit of feedback for Kanga, but I'm actually going to put him on the backboard this week because I heard him on SEN talk about the Caulfield Cup and its 150th year anniversary. And he wasn't talking about a $10 million edition. He was talking about a $20 million edition of the Caulfield Cup. Now, I don't know where the hell that money's going to come from, as you said before, Clance. But I just let's just throw this stuff out in the open and see what sticks. I absolutely love it. What do you guys reckon?
Well, I love his passion. Like he comes out and he's just going to change things up. And in an industry where staleness become the norm for quite some time, especially in Victoria. Obviously, they do a lot up in Sydney, but he's a breath of fresh air, and I can't speak more highly enough.
what do you reckon the butterfly effect would be from a $20 million Caulfield Cup for that particular year? You'd be getting, but you'd be getting horses all around the world surely coming to contest that race. So it's certainly ones from Europe.
Yeah, you probably would get some bigger Europe, especially like geldings. You might get, and maybe something better from Japan as well potentially. But yeah, I doubt it's going to happen. To be honest, it doesn't need it. But like you said, it's good to see the passion that Kanga has for the game.
Oh, let's do something in Victoria. Come on, guys, spark up. Let's go. All right, let's talk about Victoria. We've got the William Reid Stakes at the Valley. Currently, we're on a soft 5. It's going to be rail true entire circuit. The weather looks pretty good, guys. But I mean, just talking about all races. Trent, do you want to talk to us about how you think the track will play? Any historical notes worth talking about?
Well, recently, for a good period of time there, Moonee Valley, last few years or so, has actually been playing quite fairly. I think this season over the summer, it has really defaulted to being back quite heavily on speed over these Friday night meetings. The rail's true, so that's the best possible spot for it to be as fair as possible. But again, it's going to be pretty dry in Melbourne. It's probably going to be a good 4 and, maybe even get to a good 3. So yeah, I definitely want to be on speed. I wouldn't want to be getting back and too far wide as well.
Well, we're going to talk about the speed map. I'll get to you in a second for that. But Jimmy Star is going to be a big talking point for this one. Obviously, it was brilliant in the Oakley Plate. Stork, she's bulletproof, who's also in the race. We're going to talk about her as well. But Jimmy Star looks like the well-deserved favourite. And I'm looking forward to hearing your guys' thoughts on him. But we'll go to the speed map. We're looking at Schwartz, probably Arabian Summer, that will be up front.
Yeah, so Schwartz led quite easily in the Australia Stakes 2 back at this track and distance. So I think he can certainly roll forward. Arabian Summer again is going to be forward, and she's bulletproof from out wide as well, can push forward. Whether Craig Williams gets trapped wide there and she's bulletproof and presses on or tries to slot in. Reserve Bank, the 3-year-old's also got a bit of speed as well, potentially kicking up. So then I think you got Stretton Angels drawn the wider. She's going to be out the back. Benedetta probably near the back as well. Ray Magnerio kind of just off midfield. With Mahaba on the fence and Jimmy. Yeah, it is tricky for Jimmy from barrier 2. He's going to be back. Whether he stays off the fence and tries to keep Mahaba on the fence potentially, but he might just be back and kind of just trying to loop them.
Well, let's talk about how we'll play this race. Clance, I'm going to go to you first because I think Trent's keen on Jimmy. You haven't got Jimmy in your numbers here, so you're probably thinking he's too short.
Yeah, I am thinking he's too short, but I mean that there's a reason why. I mean, he opened up $2.50. He's already getting $3.30 now, and looking like getting even a bigger price. And the only reason we're getting $3.30, $3.40 instead of $2.30, $2.40 is because of that draw. Drawn barrier 2 going to be down on the gate. Going to have Stretton Angel and Benedetta on his outside, providing some roadblocks to get through. You're going to need luck. By far the most talented horse in this race, from what we've seen in recent times. So I'll be very, very worried as they're turning into the straight. But Moonee Valley is such a map course where you need things to go your way and you want to be close to that speed. So I had Schwartz getting across to the rail as well. And then Reserve Bank kicking up to behind Schwartz. And then I was thinking Ray Magnerio sits outside Reserve Bank. So Craig Williams on She's Bulletproof has, as Trent actually pointed out, can try and slot in, but I think it's going to be a bit more beneficial to go and sit outside Schwartz. And if, like the Australia Stakes, if Schwartz decides to take right off, there's actually a bit of space in behind him there. So, I've got Willow just sitting outside the lead. Bonnie Little Mare. I reckon at the 200, a lot of people would have thought She's Bulletproof had that Oakley Plate sewn up. It wasn't because Jimmy just came absolutely swamping over the top. So without that big straight of Caulfield to get over the top, I want to be with She's Bulletproof at around about that $5 mark. I think that provides a bit more value. Although, as I said, I will be very, very worried about Jimmy coming late. And the 2 that I'm keen to be against here will be Stretton Angel and Benedetta. Back in the field again, not suited. I'll be laying them the place. I think they're just big prices here at the moment. Benedetta had absolutely no luck in that new market. I mean, got chopped out a few times trying to get through, but neither of those horses have seen the Valley circuit yet, and it is a real horses for courses type. So happy to take Stretton Angel and Benedetta on the place, and we'll have something on She's Bulletproof to win.
we obviously dive into the details here on Layback with Betfair, but just one aside from the details and the insights, like, geez, I hope the racing gods look kindly on She's Bulletproof, because I would love Charlotte Littlefield to get that Group 1 with her. She's a fantastic racing person. But we'll talk about the details again. Trent, I like the conversation around barriers at the Valley. I think you're absolutely spot on. I know you probably crunched so many numbers about barriers, Trent. Like, obviously, is that what racing and sports ratings and data is telling us about barriers?
I think barriers can be overplayed a little bit. There was a big thing, again, going back a few years ago, where Barrier 1 suddenly became this, no one wanted to draw Barrier 1, especially around the valley. Realistically, over a long sample of time, it actually doesn't really make that much of a difference. What makes way more difference than any barrier is what you do from that barrier. So you can draw wide or draw in, it doesn't matter. Just the further forward you are, the better, especially at Moonee Valley. Now, having said that, I still think Jimmy Starr has the ability to overcome his map. I just loved that first up win in the Oakley Plate. He ran to a clear new peak rating with Racing and Sports, 121, and the splits that he was running there said he was, up to at least running 125. Like you said, Clance said with She's Bulletproof, I was on her, and like you said, at the 200, I was thinking that we might be home, and then as soon as Jimmy poked his head through, it was just all over. He absolutely put a hole in them late. It's clearly the best rating that anything is in this field has run, and I think he can run better again. So yes, he's going to need a little bit of luck, but I think he's got the right jockey on board. Ethan Brown's still very underrated. He's posting some of the best figures and best stats that any jockey in Australia is doing at the moment. So yeah, I think the drift is probably fair enough early. 250 was probably a bit short. North of $3, it's certainly enticing me.
Yeah, Ethan Brown is definitely a jet in these Group 1s, and he makes the most of the opportunities that he gets. All right, final plays in the race, Trent?
Yeah, it's a bit of a grit your teeth and hope bet with Jimmy, but I'm backing in his talent, and if he gets any kind of luck, I think he can blouse him.
Clance?
Main plays will be Laying Benedetta and Stretton Angel of the Place, and small win bet She's Bulletproof.
All righty. Well, that's all she wrote for the Valley. We're going to go to the massive Golden Slipper meeting at Rosehill. We're going to get a good 4, but strange things have happened with the watering of the track there. We're not predicted to have any rain, but we'll see what happens. The rail's out 3 meters for the entire circuit. Clance, you want to talk to us a little bit about the track historically? How's it played on a big day like this?
Yeah, it was quite funny given it was true track last week, and those inside 4 to 5 lanes were just nowhere. So I didn't mind that, because if you're a leader, you can get off the rail late and you can you run out to those 5th and 6th lanes. And if you're a back marker, you've got the ability to run on. So it was quite nice. I'm expecting something fairly similar. There's a couple of days of 1 to 2 mils predicted between now and Saturday. So hopefully they don't water it too heavily. And we're looking at a good 4 to start the day and end up on a good 3.
Well, we're going to go straight back to you for the speed map, but obviously this race has been littered with some fantastic horses that have won it in the past. Via Sistina last year, Dubai Honor, obviously rated from overseas. Montefiore, Very Elegant, Adaib, another one of those. It's obviously a key lead up to the Queen Elizabeth. Clance, what's the speed looking like?
Jeez, what a cracker it was last year. I think the other import, just forgetting at the moment, looked to have it in the bag last year before Via absolutely swooped from behind. So it was a pleasure watching her go about her business. But this year, we're not quite getting that $3.30, $3.50 that we got last year. It's $1.45, and for good reason. The speed map is probably one of the more interesting parts of this race. I don't think they'll be beating Via, but if without these imports, you'd be saying, oh, well, Golden Path goes to the front again. Lindemann sits outside due to where they're both drawn. But this full count Felicia, the second Waller runner here, this was her peak rating was in a Group 1 in Canada when she went out 10 lengths ahead of the rest of the field and managed to hold on and win that Group 1. So if it was by any other trainer but Waller, I would suggest they might even try to do the same thing here. But I don't think they'll try and bring Via unstuck like that. So I'll be watching with interest, but Via Sistina looks well and truly ahead of these here, and the $1.45 looks about right, if not a touch of overs. And if you're looking to play top 2 markets, then Faulkner Park was brilliant late in the Very Elegant Stakes, taking plenty of ground off the rest of the field. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him run a great race, but no bet for me.
Kind of reminds me of back in the day, the Winx days, where she would just scare off her rivals. Via's not quite getting those Winx odds, $1.05, $1.06 for this one, but it seems like the same sort of setup. Trent, how are you seeing this race?
Yeah, Via's, it's pretty easy to say. Via should be a very short price favourite. $1.40 is maybe, if anything, a little bit too big. I mean, she backed into $1.60 last start in the Very Elegant over a mile, and a mile was really still short of her best. But like Clance said, I think the speed map is interesting, and these two imports do create a little bit of something to talk about. This Full Count Felicia, like you said, has some big ratings, but also has some really big time figures. So that win that you referenced in the EP Taylor Stakes at Woodbine led at a very fast tempo and kept kicking. She ran a time figure into the 130s there. The rating itself at Racing Sports is 117, and she ran 115 the start prior. Via Sistina's nailed on to a run 124, 125 here. Her Cox plate was 132, so she can even go to that higher level. I thought it was interesting that the other import for William Haggas, Almub here, is shorter than Full Count Felicia. We've got time form data and Racing and Sports ratings on the both of them, and he's rated to a peak of 115. So Full Count Felicia, I thought, comes here in better form and has higher peak ratings and can potentially lead this field. So maybe we'll have to talk with the higher ups at Betfair and try and get a head-to-head on this little market. I think Full Count Felicia should be shorter than Mub here, but
wow.
Yeah, maybe just the William Haggas Tom Marquand factor in Sydney is playing a little bit into that. But on our ratings, I would have Full Count Felicia shorter than that horse.
So we can make that happen. Who do you want in the head-to-head? Just say again.
I want Full Count Felicia in the head-to-head over Mub here.
Oh, here we go. All right,
We'll
have a chat to the guys and gals controlling the markets there, and we'll get that one in for you, Trent. It's going to be a fantastic race. Really looking forward to this, and we're going to learn about these overseas horses too, and how they'll potentially go into a Queen Elizabeth Stakes. The next race we're going to look at is the Rosehill Guineas, over 2,000 meters as well. Rest in peace, Riff Rocket won last year. His name bobs up obviously a lot when we talk about these Group 1 races because he's won or raced very well in a few. Was a fantastic horse, but Broadsiding is the favourite. Was obviously second to Linebacker last start. He has a second crack at the 2,000 meters now, and I think he's ready for it. In my humble opinion, I want to hear yours though, Clance. First, maybe touch on the speed.
Yeah, there's been some interesting market moves already since yesterday upon opening. Broadsiding got out to 235, 240, and I just note now that it's back into even money almost. Gold Rush Guru, the other one coming from the Victorian form, the Australian Guineas, and has been well backed in and just drifted back out to 550. So some interesting moves there to begin. There's a bit of a messy speed map here. There's no real clear leader. I think Mallorca Sunset has speed, as does Kasuki out wide. I think they're probably the two that push forward, but it's by no means going to be a rapidly run race on paper. It does bring in J-Mac's possibility to go forward on Broadsiding if there's not going to drawn one of the widest barriers, I think, out in Gate 9. So could certainly sit forward if it doesn't appear he's going to get in on a slow tempo. And I think he's probably the jockey you want on board to be making those decisions on your even money favourite. For me, I won't be backing Broadsiding, although I've got him $2.25 favourite. So right at the top of the market there. I want to be with the Swift Falcon Aliana form line. So behind Linebacker and Broadsiding in the Ranvet Guineas a fortnight ago. I think Swift Falcon continues to get better and better. And I laid Swift Falcon last week purely on price. And now we're actually getting we're almost getting 3 times the price of Broadsiding now for a horse that did run the fastest closing figures. And Aliana is the other one who I backed last start and I was a little bit disappointed. About the 400, 600 just really wasn't quickening like the others. But if you go back, you watch the last 100, she's actually gone through the line faster than anyone. And so that makes me think the 2000 is going to be right up her alley here. We've talked many times on this show about Chris Waller second up, how they sometimes regress. Well, they find an extra gear third up, and that's what we've got here for Aliana as the filly in the field. So they're the two I want to be with, Swift Falcon and Aliana. Gold Rush Guru, absolutely no knock. This horse is going so well and continuing to get better and better over ground. But the only thing with Gold Rush Guru is the rating stays still just over a length off the Sydney form. So absolutely can find that length here, but I'm happy to be with the Sydney form.
Yeah, nice, Clance. What about you, Trent? How you playing this race? Obviously, broadsiding has been a little bit left and right sometimes for you. It seems to win when you want to lay it, and obviously the opposite, the other side. What do you want to do here?
Yeah, I'm going to be with him. I was actually going to touch on it as well, just looking at the market. He's come in 30, 40 cents in the last 15 minutes, I think, as we're recording this show, which I thought was interesting. So he's into even money now, which is getting onto the short side. But I thought it was interesting last start in the Ranvet Guineas. He was backed into $1.60 and Swift Falcon was $5. Now broadsiding is actually $2 and Swift Falcon's the same price. And while Swift Falcon was good again from the back, broadsiding still beat him home and has now beaten him home both times this preparation. I thought the other interesting thing was as well with Swift Falcon is that he's been finishing his races off really well. But you go back to last preparation, so he won that listed race at Randwick over 1,600 metres, then goes to Rosehill Group 3, 1,800 metres, and his rating dips significantly. He goes from 108 to 100. And then again in the Spring Champion, only manages 102. I'm not convinced that he actually wants 2,000 metres. He's finishing off his race as well, but that's not necessarily an indicator that he needs a step up in distance. It just might be that he's getting too far back and doesn't have the gate speed to take up a position. Whereas broadsiding, I think here, drawn wide, but that's no issue for me. J-Mac will roll forward and, probably just land the 1-1 as he always does from these wide barriers. They seem to just let him in. So I thought off that SP ratio last start, I thought broadsiding, you could actually make a case that he's a bet here. Now that price has come in a little bit, so I might wait for him to get back out a bit more. The other thing I wanted to touch on as well is that there's always been this comparison broadsiding to Animo. And while Animo had already run better ratings as a 3-year-old, I thought it was interesting that Animo, so he won the Hobartville first up in this campaign and ran to a rating of 117. It's the exact same rating that broadsiding won in the Hobartville, 117. Then was beaten in the Ranvet Guineas. Animo was beaten by Converge, ran to 118, so improved his rating by £1, was beaten. And broadsiding's done the exact same thing, beaten by Linebacker, but still improved his rating by £1. So Animo then improved out of sight in the Rosehill Guineas and won by 6 lengths on a wet track. But I'm not saying that that's necessarily what's going to happen here. I just found it interesting that they've run the exact same ratings, a very similar profile horse, and now third up to 2,000 metres. I think broadsiding can improve again.
Yeah, right. So you'll have a play. Is there a price you're looking for to be able to back?
I thought 220, 225. I'm probably similar to Clance with the market there, but anything higher than that's probably a bet for me. Hopefully as this market percentage continues to come down and there might be a few knocks and people look at those closing sectionals of Swift Falcon, that we can get a bit of a better price.
I remember earlier in the season, Clance, you were laying broadsiding because you just thought he was too short. And then I asked you what price you would be keen to back him, and he ended up drifting to that price. I'm just wondering, did you end up backing him?
Yeah, it was in the Hobartville, the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
I said I'm keen to lay at the even money, but I would have something on if you get it to $3. But I wasn't watching that day. I wasn't watching from home.
Naturally.
And then when I saw the BSP, and obviously I've locked in my lay bet, geez, I was flat. But it goes to show if you're not willing to watch the races throughout the day and you got something else planned, you're gonna get bit.
Well, I didn't mention it before, but a couple of these shorties, I mean, especially via Sustina, it could be one of those plays where you could back, set your odds to $2, $2.30, $40, and keep to in play. And if she touches that because she gets too far back or whatever it is, there's a lot of volatility in the in play market. So you can get matched at those prices, for a fleeting moment. And then obviously could potentially firm. I mean, it could go the other way, but it's a way of looking to get a better price in these markets on Betfair. Probably one of the great advantages to betting with Betfair versus your corporates.
Hello, Betfair punters. We're excited to introduce a new feature on the Betfair app, Follow Tipsters. This feature will allow you to follow your favourite Betfair experts and receive notifications when their betting strategies go live. By clicking follow and enabling notifications, you'll never miss a tip from pros like Terry Layton, Mitch Lewis, Jackson Oldham and Bella Anderson. All exclusive in the Betfair app, so download and get started.
We're going to go to the What Caught My Eye segment. And it was another day, another couple of massive Betfair roughies getting up. This time it was at Bow Desert on Monday. Guys, I have to talk about these ones. Shape of Water in the first race at Bow Desert paid $232. Betfair starting price, that's net of commission. The best tote price was the New South Wales tote, and that was $70.80. You also got $21 to place at Betfair, and you only got $10.30 to place there. If punters thought that was all, they were rudely mistaken, because in the 7th race, a reach over topped the first one and paid a whopping $514. BSP, the top tote was $184. This is just getting ridiculous now, guys. I mean, we say it week in, week out, but these Betfair roughies are just putting paid to the corporate rivals, right?
Yeah, it's quite funny. The reach over one, race 7 there. Custer of ours actually sent me a screenshot. He'd had $11. I don't think he was the happiest bloke in the world. And that's all you ever hear when you see. They usually see all those winning tickets come through. One guy actually put his hand up and he said, yeah, I was on the other side. I'd laid at BSP. And so he was flat as a tack. And obviously over the time, he's well in front on those. But I thought that was quite funny to see someone put their hand up and go, yeah, that was pretty flattening for me.
Has anyone ever found one of these humongous BSP runners? Because I will say that I have, using the horse ratings on Betfair. And if you flick your horse ratings on in the any horse racing market, you'll see a rated price. This was actually, I'm talking about horse racing. This was actually in a dogs race where I think a dog was rated at $50, but it was like $300 on the exchange. I was like, oh, stuff it. I have $2.50 BSP on this. And it ended up winning. I was a very, very happy camper. I wish I had 5, but it is what it is.
I actually think I caught sight of Carlos that day. We were walking down Smith Street in Collingwood, and he was the only one in the pub in the back corner going absolutely nuts on a Thursday evening.
All right. Well, I'll keep my eye on these going forward. Hopefully we can, there's no doubt we'll continue to tell these stories when they happen. The other, what caught my eye was a little bit of sad news this week. Pray for Clance. He's going to have tears coming out of his eyes here. But the great Bella Nipotina, and as Trent told me, the second most prize money of any horse in Australia, with over 20 million, only second to Winx, has retired. Guys, tell us some memories about Bella Nipotina. I'll start with you, Clance, because you absolutely love this horse.
Yeah, it's funny, when I started at Betfair, you put your player card together so that everyone in the business knows a bit about you. And what's your favourite horse? And at the time, Bella Nipotina was my favourite. So this is a very sad day in a time where our sprinting ranks are certainly lacking. But the reason behind it was the Manikato win, when she was $10 on the Wednesday and Thursday with the tab, actually fixed price, and $3.25 the win. And across, normally we see it all the time these days with corporates, like they're just the same across the board. No one's willing to stand out there. Whereas the rest of the corps are all $7.50. And it was just, I found it incredible that the tab were hanging there. So I kept having a few more bites and a few more bites. And then, I'll just keep taking $3.25 to place. And by the time Friday night rolled around, I was giddy with excitement. She was into $4.50, $4.80. And then as we're waiting for the race to be run, they get out on the track, and then the lightning strikes, and it gets pushed back to the Saturday to run on Cox Plate Day as race number 11. And so I butted up again, went with my dad on the Saturday to the races, and race 11, you have to see everything go, and the track's chopping up, and it was, you just get more and more nervous. And anyway, so she was supposed to lead, sit in the top 4. Palele was back late, I think, for memory, around about that $3 mark. And then so Bella just fell out of the gates almost, and Willow pulled her back and sat about 7th in the run. I was like, oh, the tab have got me again. And anyway, that they all fanned off the rail coming into the straight, and she took the saloon passage up the inside and kicked away and won by 4.5 running away.
Oh, brilliant.
And from that day on, she was my favourite. And maybe it does come at the right time, because Pride of Jenny's taken the mantle of my favourite horse now, and Bella can go have a nice quiet life.
What about you, Trent? Favourite Bella memory?
Yeah, it'd be the Everest, I think. Mainly because that's one of the only ones that I've backed her in. But I just love that win. It was, she was wide the whole way. They were there to beat her. The 3-year-olds had the light weight on speed, and then Giga Kick comes again late, and she just keeps kicking. It was pretty awesome. And I just love these horses. Like, she debuted in one of the early season 2-year-olds in a debutante stakes, has raced through every season, was originally with the Hayes with Ben Hayes and Tom Dabinick before the other Hayes boys had even joined. That's just showing you how far back it goes. I just love her consistency, like especially with some of the ratings that she's run. And I've just run the numbers quickly that her last 19 starts, she's run a rating of 110 or better, which is, group class, group 2 class or better. And her last 40 starts, she's run over a rating over 100. So that just goes to show you her consistency at this top level over 5 seasons or whatever it's been, or 5 years, whatever it's been, is quite incredible.
Yeah, an amazing horse, aged like a fine wine. Now, obviously retired. My favourite memory was the Giga Kick Stakes, where she looked no chance, and the Betfair markets in play agreed. She touched $280, and Private Eye was $1.01. Had plenty traded at that price, and Bella Nipotina out of nowhere just grows wings and wins that race. So she had that in her arsenal, didn't she? She had an electric turn of foot, but could also sit on pace. So she was a real versatile horse, and I really love horses like that. I reckon, they're definitely my favourites, and that's why we all have these emotional attachments to them. So bless you, Bella Nipotina. Thanks for all your hard work and winning ways. Fantastic horse. Let's continue on. We are going to look at the George Ryder Stakes now, the 1500 metre. Group 1, weight for age. Vate was the first 3-year-old to win since Piero in 2013. The mares record, only 2 mares have won since 1986. That included Winx as a 4-timer and Forbidden Love in 2022. Let's go to you, Clance. What are you doing with the speed here?
Yeah, there's not a stack of natural pace again here. We seem to be saying that for a few races. I think Royal Patronage was fantastic in the Canterbury Stakes first up, and there's no doubt he'll push forward again and find the lead. I think unless Gringotts, which I do think Gringotts will push over and either sit behind Royal Patronage or sit outside, they're really the only 2 speed influences in the race. So if you want a ticket on Fangirl or Chaelwolf or Steffi Magnetica, Tom Kitten to a lesser degree, you're going to need some sort of luck at some point, because the speed just isn't there. So I can understand, having seen that, why Royal Patronage has come up so short as a $5 second elect, when realistically probably doesn't have the class of the Fangirls and Chaelwolves of the world. But the map just sets up so well. Chaelwolf, as we spoke about last week with Joe Pride and his fighting words, that Canterbury Stakes was just a prep run. I wouldn't be looking into that too much. Steffi Magnetica was caught 3-4 wide the entire trip, so happy to forgive her off that as well. I do think Royal Patronage is a very, very good chance of winning this race, but $5 is just too short. The 2 that I'd play at this point in time on a Thursday, as we're looking at the odds, are Gringotts sitting closer, and then Steffi Magnetica presents a decent betting opportunity. They're both in double figures at the moment, but Royal Patronage and Fangirl are the 2 at the top of the market. But yeah, it's just really hard to have a bet at this point.
I'm interested to ask you, Trent. Obviously, Tom Kitten returns after an All-Star Mile win. Obviously, 1600 metres, comes back to 1500 metres, but the Australian Cup was also an option there. How do you feel about, the placement of Tom Kitten?
Yeah, this is certainly going to be a harder race. This is a great race. It's one of the early races of the autumn. Yeah, I don't mind whether he wears 16 or 1500 to 2000. I think he's pretty versatile. I do think in that All-Star Mile, he got the right run. Mr. Brightside was just holding, trying to keep another will in the pocket, and Tom Kitten just behind him was just able to just crawl up behind him and let go with a turn of foot. Whether that's able to occur here from barrier 11 and where he gets to is a little bit tricky. And it's like Clance said, the map is very interesting, but I'll counter that to some degree by thinking that Fangirl is not necessarily unsuited when they do go slow. She's got the best turn of foot in the race by some margin, I think. Yeah. And I think she's come back as well as ever. So she's, she beat Vesistina first up. That horse turned the table second up, but that's clearly no knock on any kind of form worldwide. She hasn't won at Rosehill before, but I think her ratings have been right up there. She ran second to I Wish I Win in a Golden Eagle, and she ran second to Animal in this race a couple of years ago as well. So not knocking that at all. She gets J-Mac back on as well for the first time this preparation, which is just a huge tick. Drawn wide, I think if the track plays like it did last week as well, where they are getting out wider, I think she can settle in front of a few of these. You've got the likes of Militarized drawn wider than her, and some stayers as well, resuming like Kovalika. I think they're going to be further back than she can be. So if she's settling, closer to midfield or even just off, I think she's got the turn of foot to get over the top of these on a dry track where she's just so electric.
Yeah, if you listen to J-Mac talk through the week as well, he said this will be the best presented horse in the whole country this weekend. He's very, very bullish about her. And when he says those sort of things, you got to take notice.
He could have a couple of Group 1s up his sleeve going into this race as well, which would be pretty incredible. Looking forward to that race. I agree with your sentiments, Trent. It's going to be an absolutely cracking race. What we're all here for, time to look at the Golden Slippers, obviously won by Lady of Camelot last year, where the Blue Diamond form came to the fore. 30 fillies have won the Golden Slipper in the past. The notable ones, obviously, Lady of Camelot and Fireburn, who hit $680 in play. Obviously, it was a real mudlark, wet tracker. Loved it. Loved it wet. As I said, the Blue Diamond form came to the fore last year, so I'm really keen to dive into some of those runners. But the all-important speed for this one, usually a pretty high-pressure race. Clance, are we going to get the same in this year's edition?
Yeah, it looks a very high-pressure race. And isn't it nice for the last couple of years to actually have such a dry autumn in Sydney rather than battling these heavy 8s, heavy 9 tracks? But speed map terms, I've got North England coming across. I think Farsighted, which ran really, really well in the Black Opal. Push Forward, Bella Zane has done that all prep as well. So they're all drawn quite wide in 9, 15 and 17. So I reckon they'll look to come across. Military Tycoon, Devil Knight have speed. Mahuna was sensational first up and only just pipped by the favourite. So Mahuna's certainly going to be there. Skyhook showed that it has that ability to go forward and kick away last start. Took luck out of the equation, and he's actually marked favourite in my market, Skyhook. And then, of course, we come further back. Woden's drawn really nice in 2, so J-Mac can do what he wants there. Rivellino, another that likes to settle forward as well. So, there's absolutely no lack of pace in the race.
Trent, how do you see this race?
Very tough. As have all the 2-year-old races this season have been. They've just been so soft on the historical ratings that nothing's really put up a number. Like, we've still been trying to chasing Woderton from that debut off those splits where I still think he's 120 kind of horse in waiting, but he's just, you could forgive the first up or the next run where he was third. Last up, the winner, Tentris, went straight past him. So that horse isn't here. So maybe that's still the form that you're looking at. But you need to give him a fair boost to get to the market or the price that he is now as equal favourite. But whether he improves again with, Waller in the grand final, potentially, but he's becoming, every run that he has, it seems like he's drifting further and further away from that debut. And I found it very tough to really nail one down here. So I'll be looking to maybe play a few, probably Betfair starting price. You're going to get a bigger price with these horses that are $21 plus. There's just no doubt about it. One of them is North England. I thought he stuck on okay in that Todman Stakes. The other 2 leaders that he was with dropped out there and finished near the tail. He was off a little bit of a setback, I think, as well. So, he's probably got more improvement to come than anything out of that race. Tim Clark sticks with him. You got Gay and Adrian on your side, who are just so good at preparing these 2-year-olds for Golden Slippers. And I think he probably gets into a nice spot on the map as well. And the other one has already had a little bit of support, actually, but I'm assuming we'll probably get triple figures. Betfair starting price come the day is Farsighted. Thought it ran really well in the Black Opal. They ran a good time figure that day. The time figure's pretty much in line with a lot of what these Sydney lead-ups are doing. The rating's not quite there. He's definitely going to have to improve a lot, but the time suggested that pretty handy. He's going to roll forward, and this wide barrier is not a problem for me at all. Golden Slippers are almost always won by horses on speed, and a lot of them draw wide. So, yeah, I think you'll probably get $150 Betfair starting price, and it's worth something very small.
Wowee, Trainer, love that. If you're giving something a push at $150 Betfair starting price, I'm certainly going to be following you in. I just want to talk about Woden. I want to talk about some of the negatives on this horse. Maybe with you, Clance, just where do you think the horse, you touched on it before, but just again, where do you think the horse will get to from barrier 2? Is there a chance that the horse is going to see some bad luck and maybe get pushed back?
I mean, sure, there's a potential for any horse to cop that, but you got J-Mac on board, so the likelihood is probably less than. I mean, you've drawn barrier 2 and you've got the best jockey in the country on. Your chances of hitting bad luck are less than anyone else in this race, I would suggest. Obviously, the price is being held down at the moment because there's a liability with the tab that they can't afford to take this horse on anymore. It's J-Mac at Waller, so they know that the money's going to come anyway. Thankfully, that doesn't affect the Betfair market, so I think you'll see a pretty decent drift from, what, $4.80 at tab at the moment. I'm certain we'll see $7 or $8 on Betfair at some point. So it's not going to be the issue. I can't possibly back the horse at the current price, so I'll stick away. But I'm going to go down Trent's route, actually. And Bayer Wacht is a horse that I'm going to have something on. That'll be my main each way play of the race, just something small. But we're getting $60 on the fair at the moment. We'll only get bigger, I think. You go back, there's actually the second, obviously Wotan, we've talked about it, that the highest rating to be produced in this race is Wotan's debut win. The second highest rating is Bayer Wacht, beating Wotan in the Silver Slipper, I think it was. And that last start was 3 wide on speed the entire trip in that North England race that we talked about. And so you can very much forgive the horse for dropping off there. One poor run and we're getting 60 plus for the second highest rated horse in the race. I think that's crazy. But so Bayer Wacht will definitely be a small each way play. Going to need luck from the barrier for sure, but a lot of these will. And the one that I'm keen to take on is Tempted, the favourite here. This horse started $9 in a blue diamond, was well held by the likes of Devil Knight, Tycoon Star, Tentris, who probably would be favourite here had they run here. And loses J-Mac. So obviously Black Shin, terrific rider, but barrier 1, so he's going to need that luck as well. There's a lot of things against this horse for a favourite in a very even Golden Slipper, so I'll be laying Tempted both win, but mainly the place.
Me personally, I've had a look at this race and I'm keen to go with the Blue Diamond form. Devil Knight, I think the horse will only improve out of that Blue Diamond because it was obviously a little bit of a softer race and less pressure than we've seen in former Blue Diamonds, but it's still a gritty win. Obviously, was on pace for the whole race and led for a decent stint in the straight. Maybe favoured by the rail, but you're probably going to get similar circumstances in the Golden Slipper where he's going to be on pace, sit outside the leader. So I'm definitely going to have something each way on Devil Knight. And the other one is Tycoon Star. Like, I think a really high pressure race will suit the horse if he gets clear air. Obviously has a really nice turn of foot. And like you said earlier, Tentris has definitely franked that form after winning the Todman. So yeah, there's a couple of horses that I'm going to be backing. And I think I'm just going to lay win and place Wotan just on the fact that in these big fields, high pressure races, like you only need one thing to go wrong to, be finishing at the tail of the field. Like, I know that J-Mac's an absolute freak. It's probably just going to get you a better price potentially. So happy to take that on. I did the same last year with the favourite there in the Golden Slipper. So
got the Yulong silks at the in his bedroom at home up on the wall.
Yep, that's right. Yulong are flying at the moment, to be fair. The last of the Group 1s we're going to talk about is the Galaxy. Previously won by Zapateo, Mia, Shelby 66, who's obviously been in the news of recent times, and Eduardo. Mares have dominated this race. We've spoken about mares a fair bit, 6 of the last 10 editions. The lightweight horses usually perform a little bit better. The only winner since 2013, only one winner since 2013 has carried more than 55.5 kilos. Clance, talk to us about the speed in this one.
Yeah, stacks of speed again. Time to boogie if gets a start in the race. We'll do similar to last start. Front page only knows one way. Private Harry, the favourite here, has shown plenty of speed and can sit on speed. Probably a bit more tactical with Private Harry. They could take a sit if they want to. And my horse, Eagle Nest, from backing up from last week after a terrific win, also likes to take that leading position as well. And that doesn't even take into account the likes of IME, Uncommon James, Estriella that love sitting on pace as well. So no doubt there's stacks of speed.
Love it, Clance. And how are you going to play this race?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. You talked about Zapateo there, and that brings back just really sad memories of Front Page getting knocked off by a nose in last year's edition. But
it was a massive price, and I think I backed him there as well. Obviously, 5 wins from 10 first up starts. Loves being fresh.
Yeah, and it was really similar price. So we're getting $18 now, and was BSP $20 last year. So very much the same. I think when you take into account every single runner in this race and you put their peak ratings in a list of their last 10 starts, Front Page holds both of the top 2 ratings. And generally speaking, that is in the Kosciuszko where Jurea and now Matt Dale always had this horse so ready to go for that Kosciuszko for the big money. Looked like it was going to bolt away in the Kosciuszko last year, and then I can't remember who was riding that day, but switched the whip through to the other hand, and then it stopped as if shot and far too easy, ran over and beat him comfortably. But then went to Flemington in the next start and went really, really well and actually matched the peak rating in the previous Kosciuszko. So plenty of talent there. Last year before this race, trialled alongside Overpass and was about a length behind. This year, trialled alongside Overpass and went to the line with Overpass. So at an $18 shot here, very happy to have something small on Front Page. And the other one, I will be with Eagle Nest again here. That was a terrific win last week, and we're getting $21. Private Harry is the deserving favourite. We're talking second favourite in an Everest at the moment behind Ka Ying Rising. So the ratings obviously don't have him at that level yet, but the ceiling on an unbeaten horse hasn't been found yet. So really hard to quantify what that will actually mean in ratings. So I can't possibly back at the $3.40 we're getting currently, but I'll be very, very nervous when Harry starts to turn on his turn of foot.
Trent?
Well, I just want to firstly point out, I think the only reason that you're back in Eagle Nest is so that someone can mention that you backed it last week and got it up.
Someone. I'm mentioning any danger.
It was well backed as well. Great bet. And it kept me alive in the quaddie for just a little bit longer. I need to go out next leg. But no, hats off to you. Yeah, I wanted to be with Private Harry. I just think he's too short in this market. There's way too many horses that have competitive enough ratings to be marking him that short. The two that are kind of second and third favourites, I think, are too short as well. Commemorative ran a pretty good rating last start at Ramwick, and at the weights, she gets in well with these weight-adjusted ratings. She comes out highly. I don't necessarily think that she's that good, and I think Rosehill is going to be a problem for her as well. Drawn barrier 2, a lot of it always been made about her. She's a big mare. She's never raced at Rosehill, and I think there's a good reason for that she's always kind of done her racing at Ramwick. So yeah, barrier 2, likely to get back in the field and probably needing space. I think she's very short. She's coming to about 550. And the other one, Briasa, very promising horse as well. 1,100 metres, drawn barrier 15 for the Hawks Yard. There's no way he's going to be ridden with any intent because that's what they do with their horses. I think he's going to get too far back as well. So they're the two I'd be keen to be against. I'm going to have something very small on Estriella. She's $26 or so. She might be completely gone, to be honest. She hasn't really lived up to expectations, but yeah, she was poor in the Oakley Plate. She was $6 and carried a bit of weight there. They rode her back, which I don't like. I think she needs to be ridden on speed, so I'm hoping they learnt their lesson with that and revert to usual tactics. But her peak stuff is certainly good enough to be winning something like this, and 54.5 kilos for a horse with those ratings at $26, I think is a decent price to find out. So she might be Cactus, but at those odds, I'm going to give her one more chance.
Honestly, it's a race full of really nice chances where, multiple horses could get up at big odds. Like we haven't really touched too much on Growing Empire and Jetty Beale. But then again, like Private Harry could just storm and win the race. So it's one of those really interesting ones, right?
That's why it's such a great race day, because you do have those weight for age races, the Group 1s, where the best horses in the country are racing, and you get to watch the best flesh. And then you got these handicaps, or you got this handicap in particular over the sprinting distance, big field, everyone weighted accordingly, and anything could win. So that would be a cracking. I imagine what I'll be doing is finishing up watching the Crows beat the Bombers by about 15 goals and then tuning into the Galaxy, and I'll be having a great day.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens there, Clance. We'll see what happens there. Thanks for all that insight from Rosehill and the Valley. It's hamburger time. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Tom Haylock has got 2 hamburgers in a row. He backed Pride of Jenny last week, and obviously laid Zardozi there. Geez, we got to lift, guys. We got to get on the board and have our names next to Tom Haylock there. If you don't know what a hamburger is, you have to back one and lay one in the same race. Just as a little dig to Tommy, I'd be hoping to back him a little bit more than odds on and 270 here. So hopefully we're getting something a little bit better odds for you gentlemen here. Clance, what's your hamburger this week?
Jeez, I don't know if you can do much more than back Pride of Jenny. Gets out at $4 and then lays Zardozi at $2.05 or $2.10. He's done pretty well. Don't be expecting that from me this week. Chanois is where I'm going. Moonee Valley Race 6 in the Alistair Clark Stakes, the Group 2 set weights. And set weights is an important part of this race because that's why Chanois gets in so well here and is a terrific bet. For $3 on the exchange seems a terrific price. Really nice purple patch of form for this guy. His main rivals in this race here, he gave them a smacking in the Autumn Classic last start, and was caught 3 wide early in the race and working and still managed to smack him up. The set weight conditions mean he's not punished for that race and receives no penalty, so should be far too good. I'm actually surprised we're getting $3 here. I wouldn't be surprised if it starts a lot closer to that even money quote. And as a result, the other side will be laying Emphasize, who was leader in that race and dropped out. I would be expecting a better race than that. It is a very talented horse, so expecting him to come back somewhat, but Chanois still to be too good.
Hamburger Trent, go.
Yeah, I'm going back to the Rosehill Guineas with broadsiding, just backing in. I think he's going to improve again. 2,000 metres. His run in the Cox Plate at 2,000 was very good. And laying Swift Falcon, which makes me a little bit nervous because I know that he's been hitting the line really strongly. I'm just not convinced that he actually wants 2,000 metres. I think he's going to drop back to the Doncaster after this, and that might be more his race. So, yeah, I'll back broadsiding and lay Swift Falcon.
Hamburger. I'm going to the Golden Slipper. I said it before. I'm laying Woden, and I'm had to choose between Devil Knight and Tycoon Stars, the horses I'm going to back. And I think I'm just going to go with Devil Knight for this one, just because the horse is likely to be on pace and I think has a lot more to give out of that softer Blue Diamond. So looking at Devil Knight back, laying Woden. All right, let's talk about our best bets now. Obviously, we might have some bets outside the races we've spoken about. Clance, what are your best bets?
Yeah, the Group 1 seemed pretty tough on the weekend. So the best bets were going outside of that. The one we just mentioned, Moonee Valley Race 6, number 2, Chanois, for reasons discussed. And best at Rosehill outside of the Group 1s will be Race 2, number 5, Sounds of Heaven. Backing up from the Group 1 Coolmore Classic last week, where really didn't take much of a part towards the back of the field. Gets in so well here at set weights and penalties class. And if you go back to last preparation, it was a very, very similar setup here, and backed up third up on Cox Plate Day it was, and that produced a career peak rating. When she went through the line last start, it was much better than the actual result would foresee, and so really happy to go at an $8 mark here. Sounds of Heaven. We'll back her each way.
Best bets, Trent.
Yeah, I'm going with Clance back to Moonee Valley for the 2 best. The Alistair Clark, I think Chanois looks really well placed again. So showed a really good turn of foot in that Autumn Classic at Caulfield off a slow tempo. And I just think he gets the exact same scenario here. He's drawn barrier 2. Ethan Brown goes on. He's going to settle just behind the speed in what looks to be a fairly slowly run race again. So he just gets everything in his favour. And some of these horses coming through the Australian Guineas, I think, aren't going that well and are probably going to get back in the field. So I think he just wins again, Chanois. And the other one is in race 8, the Sunline Stakes for the mares. I think Grinzinger Bell can bounce back in a big way. She was okay first up behind Cua Volante. She led too quickly into the win that day. She led at a really fast pace and dropped out, but not badly. She's got a couple of ratings that win a typical Sunline Stakes. Moonee Valley on pace, she's drawn wide, but Declan Bates goes on. She's going to roll straight to the front, and if he gets the sectionals right, which he can do very well, I think she's going to be really hard to catch. So she's around that $6 mark or thereabouts. I think that's a good bet.
Well, we don't expect listeners to have a pen and paper and writing all these bets down. All you got to do is just make sure you're following the guys in the Betfair app and set your notifications, and you will get their best bets, all the bets they're having across the Valley and Rosehill. Looking forward to seeing some of that value come through Trent's tips and Clance's tips. They have been in ridiculous form at the moment, so make sure you're following them to get their tips. Same as Tom Haylock. I just also want to touch on Mitch Lewis, Betfair's expert tipster for New South Wales. He's in fantastic form. I think he's plus 20 units in his last 3 meetings. So he's going really, really well. And obviously all his tips are going to be in the Betfair app and hub. You're going to see those in the next couple of days. But looking forward to a ripping week of racing. Good luck to all the listeners, watchers out there. Have fun, bet responsibly, and we'll see you next week on Layback with Betfair.
Stay ahead of the game with the most up-to-date betting insights, track conditions and bias, scratchings, late market moves, and more. When it comes to betting, having the most up-to-date information can make all the difference. That's why we've introduced Betfair's Late Mail, the most informed tipping service on the market. Delivered by pros like John Walter, Glenn Ingram, Sean Byrne, and Bella Anderson, Late Mail provides expert insights closer to the jump, helping you adjust your strategy with the latest information and data at your fingertips. Late Mail is exclusive in the Betfair app, so simply open the app, follow Late Mail tipsters, and enable notifications to be ready when our pros send in their late bets. Stay informed, stay ahead, bet smarter with Late Mail.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.